Ethereum Classic has been attacked. What happened, and what does it mean for Ethereum Classic moving forward? Well, according to COINBASE, who reported that they detected a deep chain reorganization of the Ethereum Classic blockchain that included a double spend on January 5th, although it's interesting that they waited a couple of days to make this announcement after having discovered it on the 5th. Coinbase. Regardless, the exchange has halted deposits and withdrawals of Ethereum Classic. They went on to say that they have seen 8 different reorganization episodes that included double spends, totaling to around $500,000 worth of Ethereum Classic, which was double spent. Ouch. Now, to put that in perspective, A, it's a lot of money, but B, it's not a lot of money considering how big Ethereum Classic is, what the daily volume of Ethereum Classic is, and the overall market cap of Ethereum Classic. Now, the markets have not been very favorable to this. We have seen Ethereum Classic taking a bit of a dip today. People don't like these kind of situations when the blockchain doesn't seem to be very secure anymore, and that is exactly what has happened. Ethereum Classic was not secure. There was a 51% takeover of the Ethereum Classic blockchain, which is quite devastating for Ethereum Classic. This is not being called a 51% attack, but a chain reorganization. You might be thinking, hey, wait a second, Lark. If somebody has malicious intent and takes over more than 50% of the hashing power and uses that power to do malicious things on the blockchain, isn't that kind of a 51% attack? Well, yeah, it is kind of a 51% attack. In fact, a 51% attack and a chain reorganization are basically the same thing, fundamentally. The only small nuance of semantics that we might look at here is that the chain reorg isn't so much an attempt to control the network as it is to take temporary advantage of low hash power and double spend before hashing power returns to normal levels. Essentially, the chain reorganization is a situation where a single miner or a single pool has more resources than the rest of the network, 51% essentially, and the dominant miner can then define a new transaction history on the network, picking an arbitrary previous block from which to extend an alternative block history. The team at Ethereum Classic has come out saying that they have a pretty good idea of who they suspect might be behind taking over the network. Apparently, an ASIC manufacturer called LinG is currently testing out 1,400 megahash ETH hash mining machines, which could have easily seen them taking over the network. They're saying this is most likely a selfish mining attack, not a 51% attack, not them trying to take over the network. Ethereum Classic saying, well, double spends have not been detected. Coinbase has a different story. I think it'll be a couple days before we get all of the information regarding exactly what has happened with Ethereum Classic as they go back and do some diagnostics on the different transactions, the different blocks, etc., etc. But very problematic nevertheless. If it only takes one company to come in, start testing their machines, and easily dominate the network, it really speaks to the low security overall of Ethereum Classic. Some have even gone as far as to put around the theory that it's no coincidence that only 3 days ago, OKX opened up the possibility to short Ethereum Classic. And essentially, tin hat here for a moment, somebody could have very easily gone, purchased that power, or done it intentionally, whether it was LinG, not saying it was, or someone else who we have no idea who it is, could have very easily attacked Ethereum Classic, knowing that would push the price down so that their short orders would get filled, thus making truckloads of money. The double spends at that point probably seem irrelevant, considering how much money could have been made shorting Ethereum Classic. Just speculation at this point, but seems like a possible theory when it comes to big money players and how easy it can be to attack some of these blockchains. And this is kind of just a continuation of earlier bad news for Ethereum Classic. It has been a tough couple of months. We had the death of the ETC dev team, one of the many teams working on Ethereum Classic, and it did cause a lot of FUD that Ethereum Classic is dead, it's all over. Not quite the case. We still do have other teams like the ETC Cooperative and ETC Labs working on developing Ethereum Classic, but another devastating situation did happen for Ethereum Classic that IOHK, the development firm behind Cardano, has announced that they're ending support for ETC Mantis. Now, Charles Hoskinson came out and said the following. He said that the team had numerous roadmap updates that could be implemented in Ethereum Classic, but doing so would take time, money, and effort, and thus would be currently unsustainable as the ecosystem stands. He said the challenge for me is I'm spending my own money building this, and we've never gotten a revenue source for the construction of this client. So at the moment, we've made nothing for participating in Ethereum Classic, and at some point, as a CEO of a company, I do have to make a decision of when and where we do stop spending money, when and where we do stop contributing resources for something that doesn't contribute back. Ouch. Not to say, of course, that Charles Hoskinson has stopped being an Ethereum Classic fan, but to see that official support ending from IOHK, it's quite devastating, I think, overall for the Ethereum Classic ecosystem, because they were a big supporter and a lot of money was being spent to develop these clients for Ethereum Classic. And for every bit of dysfunction that we see happening for Ethereum Classic, whether it be development teams falling apart, funding drying up, blockchain being attacked, we have Justin Sun standing there with open arms, just ready for developers to come to him. Oh man, that picture cracks me up. Thanks to Tommy Mustache on Twitter for the hilarious meme. So is it all over for Ethereum Classic? Is this the end? Is Ethereum Classic going to die? Well, don't count Ethereum Classic out just so quickly. We recently, for example, had the ETC Labs incubator program. We had 140 applicants for it. 12 were chosen to be basically funded and supported, have access to shared office space, etc., help to take their projects to the next level, also being introduced to the network of collaborators, investors, and supporters behind ETC. So that is kind of a big deal. But when you compare it to how much money, for example, EOS has to throw at this, this current attack has done nothing good for Ethereum Classic. Ethereum Classic was already on the ropes from some of the previous announcements that have come out over the past couple of months, and this just does nothing to help their reputation. When we add on top of the funding woes and how much money we see other blockchains pouring in to supporting people to develop on their chains, EOS has got billions behind it. Justin Sun's put $100 million on the table for people to come and develop blockchain games on Tron. Just remember, Justin Sun's standing there all the time. And while we have seen an increase in number of addresses and exchange listing different services for Ethereum Classic really remains this kind of stroppy little underdog that's trying to fight the big guys that have way more money than it, way bigger developer communities, and way more dApps built on it. The long-term trend for Ethereum Classic, it really needs to get its act together. This current attack will do nothing positive for Ethereum Classic. And I don't want to FUD on Ethereum Classic. This is just what happened, guys. These are just the news stories that have happened. I wish Ethereum Classic all the best, but I really think that considering all of the other competition that we have out there, how much money is behind Ethereum, how much money is behind EOS, how much money is behind Tron, how much money is behind Cardano, etc., Ethereum Classic is going to have a really hard time being a big dog, essentially. This 51% attack just proves how small of a dog Ethereum Classic is currently. And I feel bad for the community. For anyone who out there who is an Ethereum Classic community member, I feel for you. That hurts. Nothing cool about seeing your coin attacked like this. This is not the first 51% attack that we have seen, or chain reorganization, that we have seen on any given blockchain, and is certainly not going to be the last. Makes you realize just how secure Bitcoin is because of how much hashing power is currently behind the network. Who will be next to have their blockchain attacked? Interesting question. Anyway, let me know what you think about the Ethereum Classic attack down below in the comment section. Also, I'd love to know your opinion. Do you think that Ethereum Classic is going to have the staying power long-term to be a big player? Do you think that this is all just temporary setbacks for Ethereum Classic, that we're going to see a new renaissance for Ethereum Classic when it becomes the big dog in the crypto industry? I have my doubts, but I'd love to know your opinion on the topic down below in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching today's video. You guys are supremely awesome. I love you all. And if you could, leave a thumbs up on that video. That would be supremely awesome, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. There's a notification bell down below which you can click on to get informed when I put out a new video. Long live the blockchain, and peace out the next time.